Yo, what up guys, Travic here, and today I want to talk a really fun, awesome farm. Lately I've been doing a lot of kooky things. I've been trying a lot of different idle setups, and this one today is one of my more favorite or kind of, I like this one a lot, we'll say. Today we're going to be checking out Harbingers, but not any Harbingers. We're going to be checking out the craziest type of Harbingers that you can fight in Path of Exile, and those are the Harbinger Bosses. These maps are completely bonkers and crazy, and I'm gonna pretty much give you a rundown about why we're doing this. Now, this strategy is a lot of fun and it's a huge jackpot strategy, as though pretty much you can either get a whole lot of little something, or you can hit absolutely huge. I've seen some streamers just completely blow it out of the water hitting mirror shards, and I've seen other people just get a whole bunch of fracturing orbs. I mean, like, you can go from like a bajillion chaos orbs to maybe getting really lucky and doing mirror shards. In the past, I have farmed Harbingers an absolute ton. I've made a bunch of videos about Harbingers. I've farmed the Harbinger memory a whole lot, and Harbingers has a special place as it is one of the coolest, funnest strategies that you can do. And on top of that, it gives great gold, and it just gives an absolutely metric ton of experience if you're able to do the maps. The beautiful part about Harbingers is, to my knowledge, they don't scale off of any map modifiers or effects, so you can just run your map and just kill your Harbingers and get in and out of the maps without any problems at all. Today, when we run our Harbinger maps, we're going to be using 4 Scarabs. Each of these Scarabs gives us an additional 3 Harbingers. Now, these Scarabs do indeed get a little bit pricey, but we do make up for the cost of them inside the map while we're picking up loot. Currently, at the time of recording, these small Scarabs are about 5C each, 6C depending on where you buy them, sometimes a little bit more on Faustus, sometimes cheaper on trade, sometimes cheaper on Faustus, sometimes more important on trade, and it kind of just depends on where you're buying them and at the time of the, depending on the market. So we're running about 5, 10, 15, 20C in Scarabs, and you'll see why, and it'll make a whole lot of sense. And then we're using a Harbinger Scarab of the Warhordes, and this one too gets a little bit pricey, between 5 and 9C, depending on the time of day, when it is, how many people are running it. So you're looking at an initial investment per map about maybe 30C plus 4C for the map device. And the reason we're doing this is we're stacking it with a whole lot of idols, and our idols make this insane. So we're going to be adding 3, 6, 9, 12, 13, 14 Harbingers onto our map just from the map device itself in Scarabs. All of the currency shards dropped by Harbingers are going to duplicate, and then we're going to be stacking it with idols, and the idols we're going to go over in a second. When we go into our map and we go to explore our map, it is going to be a little overwhelming. It is going to be a lot, because we are going to have 25 additional Harbingers inside of our map. So there's going to be a whole lot going on. Now, you're going to notice very quickly, this big blue guy in the middle, this is indeed the Harbinger boss. Because of our idols, we will have every single pack is going to have a ton of Harbinger bosses, and you see they spawn a whole lot of, mobs. Now, my loot filter is pretty heavily tailored for the Harbinger farm, so we do remove a lot of the extra stuff that you'll see. But if I hold Alt over all of this loot, you'll see there are tons of Horizon shards, tons of Alchemy shards, tons of just tons of all kinds of other smaller shards, all things that we are not really aiming for, or that I'm not aiming for at this stage of the league. But there's a lot of people who still want to pick up some of that stuff, and earlier in the league, those items are worth a whole lot. Now, Harbingers does have a huge downside. It will be a whole lot of clicking, and as long as you don't mind a ton of clicking, it's not too terrible. Outside of that too, you're going to be picking up tons and tons and tons of Chaos Orbs. You're going to be getting little tiny random Scarabs because they're going to be spawning things, and the Harbingers themselves have the opportunity to drop huge jackpot items. If you're lucky, you'll get a bunch of fracturing shards, and you might even hit that elusive mirror shard. Now, I had mentioned that these maps do get a little crazy, and they get a little wild. There's going to be a lot of mobs spawning. There's going to be a lot of things to kill, and if you aren't too careful, you will pretty easily get overrun, as the Harbingers are a little crazy. Now, I know not everybody's a fan of idols. I personally really like idols. I think idols really brings this strategy really over the top, and I'm really curious, what do you think about idols? I've heard a lot of mixed reports about idols, and I'm just a huge fan of idols. I would love to see idols stick around in some sort of fashion, whether they're jewel sockets on the Atlas tree, or whether they're cluster jewels on the Atlas tree, or whether they just find some really nifty way to bring just idols back to the game. I think they provide just the craziest farming experience that I've managed to have inside of Path of Exile since Affliction League, and they're just something that I really hope stays. But like I said, I know not everybody likes idols. I know some people are for idols. I know some people are against idols, but I'm really curious to hear your thoughts on it. Have you guys had really good success with idols? Have you guys not had good success with idols? Where are you kind of sitting on the fence? On top of that, I think idols being an initial upfront cost is a little difficult for some people, and I get it becomes very overwhelming. But I've been a really big fan of having that initial cost being taken care of and then not having to worry about a whole lot of extra mumbo jumbo. One of the things that I mean by this is currently while we're doing this map, we have 25 Harbingers. That is something that even with more currency, we would never be able to purposely put on our map. And even with the current Atlas tree, we wouldn't be able to get 25 Harbingers. But if I wanted to add Harbinger Bosses to every map, it would be an extra cost per map. I would also have to like have more Atlas slots to have more Harbingers, and that would just be more Scarab costs, which makes things, you know, become more expensive over a longer period. I know that the idols for some of the farms are insane. I did pick up an idol set last night. I bought my own idol set. Oh, look, we hit. I guess when you pull the lever enough in one map, you gotta hit. I do know idols can be relatively expensive and insane. I did indeed buy myself an idol set last night. I choked a little bit when I spent a lot of money on a Scarab farm set. A buddy of mine convinced me to pull the trigger. I farmed all day yesterday and I bought the idol set, and that is completely crazy. I have a whole video about that. You know, Scarab farming was not what I expected. I heard rumors, I heard stories, but we'll save that for later. Also, this character that I'm playing is literally perfect for these kinds of farms. Any kind of character that can just hit the whole screen, any kind of character that can explode a whole lot of mobs makes a farm like this great. The big downside, or the biggest downside to this farm is, like I had mentioned, it's a lot of little clicks. You have to pick up a lot of little currencies. And if you're okay with that, you see right away, we've already made back just in small chaos the cost of the map, and we still haven't even finished the map. You know, everything else from this point on is pure profit. That includes all of those fracturing shards. And I know somebody's going to say, but fracturing shards aren't very expensive. And you're right. They're not the most expensive item right now. There are a couple divs for a fracturing orb. But as the league goes on, or the event goes on a little bit more and a little bit more, and people start doing different things and people move off of Harbingers, the cost of these items are going to go up, especially when people start needing to fracture a lot of things. So fracturing orbs are like one of those things where like, they're like in abundance and then they're just not. Out of nowhere, they will just be completely and utterly gone, and they will be in high demand. The same thing goes for like ancient orbs. Ancient orbs right now are like, they're like 40-ish to a divine. I think I sold all of mine at like 41 to a divine, but they drop in abundance. Like, it's completely crazy how many you get. But eventually there's going to be a day when some crazy person is going to buy like 80,000 of them because they're going to make some silly ass video about trying to gamble a headhunter mage blood mirror thing, and then all of the supply is going to dry up and they're all going to be worth something in. So it's like this really cool, fun strategy where, like, you know, you just kind of like, you go by, you make a little bit of currency, you go by, you make a little bit of currency, you hit a mirror shard, you make a lot of currency, you hit a fracturing orb, you make a lot of currency. And it's just, I don't know, I think Harbingers are really fun. It's just something that I like to do to break up the, like, the crazy grinds. You know, you do a lot of these like hardcore wild strategies and you sometimes forget the fun, and Harbingers does a really good job of bringing back the fun. But the other thing too with Harbingers is these maps can get a little long. They are a little excessive. You see that this map, we're in this map like 6 minutes. And this is like, even, it's really hard to cut down these map times. Like, you're going to be in these maps for 5 or 6 minutes. It's just how it is. And it's not the worst. It's not too bad. It's quite nice. I'm just double checking to make sure I didn't miss anything while I was yapping. But if you do these maps on dunes, or you do Harbingers on dunes, Jungle Valley, City Square, you'll have a really good time, and they'll be really, really, really easy to get through. Now, this map, we got a couple of idols. We're not really going to price check the idols. We're not going to price check this, but we're going to look at what we got. We got about 38 chaos. This pays for the entire cost of the map, plus a little bit of extra in our pocket. We got 8 fracturing shards. Sometimes you get more, sometimes you get less. Fracturing shards right now, at the time of recording, are about 1920C each. They're probably a little bit more if I look at fracturing orbs. Fracturing orbs are 2.8, probably pushing 3. They might even be more on Faustus. Let's just take a look really quick. Grab Fracturing Orbs, hit Divines, and Fracturing Orbs on Faustus are indeed pushing close to 3 Divines each. There is not a whole lot of stock available of Fracturing Orbs, so that tells me that there is a really good possibility that Fracturing Orbs might start be on the rise. Now, outside of that too, we got a whole bunch of Annulment Orbs, and Annulment Orbs, they're not the most expensive thing. They are relatively cheap this event. I am, as somebody who likes to use them in abundance, I'm very happy they're kind of cheap, but it also makes me kind of sad. But I mean, I've been doing these maps. I did like a whole day's worth of farming of these maps. I got 233, including this map, Annulment Orbs. I had 140 or 150 Ancient Orbs. I've gotten 5 Fracturing Orbs, not including the 8 orbs that I just got now, plus a whole bunch of other little currencies. Doing this farm, you will be completely surprised at how often you get a ton of Fracturing Shards, a ton of Fracturing Orbs, a ton of Chaos, infinite annulments, a bunch of Exalted Orbs, and just kind of little currencies that you weren't really expecting to get that are constantly dropping. Now, to make this farm good and to make this farm viable, you will indeed need an idol set, and that is where majority or the bulk of your cost comes in. We are going to be using 3 2x2 idols. We are going to be using 5 3x1 idols, and we're just going to have some really small idols. Now, we're going to only focus on the Harbinger side of things. Our 2x2 idol here, this main one here, gives us currency shards dropped by Harbingers, can drop as currency items instead. This allows our items that are dropping to drop in full stacks or as a full stack. You saw I was getting random Chaos Orbs. I have gotten a full Fracturing Orb. I have seen friends get multiple Fracturing Orbs. And this gives you the opportunity to turn those Chaos Shards into full orbs. Now, this mod by itself is not relatively expensive. It is 10 to 20C, but we are going to be pairing it with 2 additional Harbingers, and it does get a little pricey at 3 Divines. It is probably better to just buy these if you have the town up and running and a little bit of gold. Buy these as combined. I'm looking at the prices now. You definitely buy it combined instead of trying to recombinate it. It's going to cost you about 100 scene attempts. It's going to take you about 4 or 5 attempts to get it to go together. 3 Divines, have it done, not too bad. The other large 2x2s we're going to be doing contains 2 additional Harbingers. That mod you just saw is about 100 C at the time of recording. And we're going to do Scarabs found on your map are less likely to be the less common variety. This one's about a div. You do not need this one. This one is nice. This mod is extra. It is nice. It just allows you to find better tier of Scarabs, but you don't need this, and you can go with just 2 additional Harbingers between 80 and 100 C. And the last one here, the exact same thing, 2 additional Harbingers. Now, me personally, I opted to add Beyond onto my map because I was getting a couple of extra Beyond currencies here and there. I'm not sure it's fully worth it, but I did opt on for Beyond. Now, our big 3x1 idols and our sideways 3x1 idols, you will need 5 of them. Whether they're 3 up and downs or 3 side to side, you do need 3 in one direction and 2 in the other direction. On these, you're going to be looking for the following mods. You're going to be looking for contains an additional Harbinger, and Harbingers in your map have a chance to be replaced by a powerful Harbinger boss. Now, you do want to get this to 100%. This is very important. This mod right now at 23% is 3 Divines. So you're looking at 3, 6, 9, 12, 15 divs for this, 16, 17, 18 for this, 19 for this right now. And the reason why you want to do 5 of them is it is very hard and very expensive to get 25%. If you have the extra currency, you can get 25, 25, 25, 25, and then have 3 small idle slots. I did not want to opt in for the 25% in the additional Harbinger because I felt that it was just too expensive at the time when putting this together. It pretty much just adds another 2 or 3 divines on top of each idol, and it wasn't just something I really wanted to deal with. If you have the extra currency, it is really, really, really nice because when you pair these idols with the small idols, you're going to be doing Harbingers have increased cooldown recovery rate. So this is what makes those Harbingers spawn bosses really, really, really fast, and having the extra idol slots will give you more of that. Currently, with the setup that I have right now, trying to sort through this drop box and see everything, we have Scarabs found on your map are less likely common. We have 10% increased Scarabs found on our map, which is really nice, which is just a little extra and a little random. We have 11 additional Harbingers from all of these idols. Harbingers in your maps are replaced by a powerful Harbinger boss. currency shards dropped by harbingers in your maps can drop as currency items instead. Harbingers in your map have a 98% cooldown recovery rate. Before I had this, my maps were taking about 8-9 minutes, and now you saw that map took about 6-7 minutes. So getting more increased cooldown recovery rate will speed up your maps a lot. So there is an argument to spend the extra divines on the idols to make it a little bit better. And then from there, everything else on the map is a little bit extra just from random stuff that I found. Now I did, like I mentioned, include chance to attract demons from the beyond. I did want to play with Beyond, and if you do decide yourself that you want to play with Beyond, you do want to include this Endless Tide idol. Otherwise, the first pack of Harbingers that you fight is indeed just going to spawn a Harbinger Beyond boss, and Beyond's just going to be gone for the rest of your map. I don't know if that's the worst thing. I don't know if that's the best thing, but that's kind of like what happens. But this is it. This is the Harbinger strat. It's a lot of fun. You're looking at about 30 divs and idols, and then about 30C worth of maps, 30C worth of map costs. Once you have the idols put together, it is smooth sailing. Now you could start with really cheap idols that are just like one additional Harbinger, and then you get a whole bunch of one additional Harbingers, and then you get currency shards dropped by Harbinger in your map replaced by currency items. So you get like this, and then you get Harbinger, and then you just start farming up some currency, get a fracturing orb, sell the fracturing orb, buy a better idol. Just farm a little bit, get a fracturing orb, sell it, buy a better idol. And you just work your way up if you don't have the 30 div or 40 div, whatever the investment is, if you choose to try something like this out. I found the strategy to be an absolute metric ton of fun. It is not going to be better currency than farming Beast. It will never be better currency than farming Scarabs, but it is an absolutely thrill ride of an event of just pulling the slot machine wheel until something insane happens. And like I said, I've done multiple maps where I've got walked out with multiple fracturing shards, sometimes an entire orb plus shards, and it gets a little wild. It definitely does. And it is a rush, an absolute rush. But for now, friends, going forward, over the next couple of days, I'm going to be doing a video on this guy. If you want to see this guy, please let me know, and I'll make sure to do a nice in-depth little video on what this character is. I'm going to be doing a video about my Scarab farm, and then I'm going to be trying out a bunch of different things in the upcoming days. I'm also going to be prepping for Last Epoch's coming out. I'm going to be trying out all kinds of other games. And if there's anything you would like to see, or you've made it this far in the video, please don't hesitate to leave a comment down below. It really helps the channel out a whole lot. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and for now, friends, I'm going to get this video out to you guys, and I'll see you all in the next one.